Welcome everyone to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle sponsored every Saturday by Still and Moving Center. Our quote from the back of the almanac for this year of Light on the Path was talking about us creating our own light. And I don't really think there could be much better way of elevating our energy than creating our own light. Elevating our energy is our theme for this week. And we're very fortunate to have with us two people who do a lot every time they teach at Still and Moving Center, their Qigong class, to elevate our energy. And I know that they have made a really big difference in a lot of people's lives in that very regard. Their names are Dishen Shah and Jade Chan. And he's originally from India. She was raised in California. Her parents are from Taiwan. So we have a kind of international couple, which is very in keeping with the whole ethos behind Still and Moving Center, which brings, and behind Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, which is looking at different cultures around the world for those sparks of inspiration and wisdom they have to share. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to these two very capable people on the topic of elevating our energy.
Wonderful. So aloha, everyone. Let's start off with a quick centering prayer. So let's all put our hands like this so that we can all join hands virtually and feel our energies. So let's soften our bodies and take a deep breath in. And release. Continue 3 or 4 more deep breaths. Dear universe, let us smile at our beings today. Let's clear any thoughts and let it float down like sand floating down into the ocean. Let's clear our glass so that the light and gratitude can radiate through us. And let our hearts be open to receiving and being aware of any synchronicities that might arise. Let us be in community and learn from one another. Mahalo! Before we begin our presentation, we encourage you to have a book and or a journal and a pen handy just for writing down any things that might speak to you. And then as we go through the presentation, and then the discussion reflection later, you'll have a chance to share any thoughts or observations or learnings during the presentation. Right, amazing. We're going to first figure out how to share our screen. Sharone, could you guide us?
Yes, so if you're using Zoom, it will be at the bottom. You're going to see participants, chat, react, and then it should be the share screen.
Okay.
So you click that, and then you select the screen you would like to share.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
1 second, I have to make some changes. I have to quit and rejoin. Just sorry for this. Give me 1 second.
Okay. I've actually had some students at Still and Moving Center who came to Still and Moving Center simply because of Dishen's and Jade's class, and continue to come to Still and Moving Center because of their class. They're just really so thankful to the two of them for what they bring to their whole student body. There we go.
Yay.
You can see our screens?
Yeah, and if you can, there you go. Perfect.
All right. Aloha, everyone. So I'm Dishane, and I'll be presenting with my wife, Jade. We'll be speaking on Taoist philosophy and Qigong. Both philosophies have made a great impact in our lives. And I'm a yoga Qigong teacher, a life coach, a wellness retreat host in the space of holistic wellness, and a mindful travel. And my journey started in India, where I practiced yoga and meditation as a kid, as a way of life. And that early foundation set me on a path of deep compassion and discipline. But it wasn't until I found myself in Taiwan doing Qigong with elders and learning under a master coach from Himalayas that my spiritual journey deepened. And as my spiritual journey deepened, I came across Tao, the philosophy. And I started living in the ways of the Tao. And Jade will speak more on it on this later as well. And one of the key things that I learned from that is there's a spiritual solution to every problem. And this led me to dive into the ancient wisdoms of Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, spirituality, and even modern sciences like neuroscience and epigenetics. And each philosophy offers profound truths and insight into the nature of life, the universe, the path to oneness. And today we'll be sharing specifically about the Taoist philosophy and Qigong that helped improve our lives. And our hope is that you may find a gem of wisdom in your life, integrate in your life, and elevate your energy.
So I'd like to start off by sharing a little bit about Taoism and what makes it so profound. So at the heart of Taoist philosophy is a book called the Tao Te Ching, and it's known as the guiding text of Taoist philosophy. So the name Tao Te Ching loosely translates to the way in Chinese, or the virtues of nature. And there's over 5,000 translations of this book that we could find online and in educational texts. And some call it one of the wisest books ever written. You can read it in a day, but you can study it for a lifetime. And we believe in it contains the solutions to many modern problems. It's made up of 81 verses, all written by Lao Tzu or Lao Tzu, whose name literally means ancient master or ancient philosopher in Chinese. And it is said that Lao Tzu lived in ancient China during a time of war, chaos, and corruption. And one day, he decided that he had enough. So he got on a water buffalo and he left civilization behind. And as he was journeying to the western border, he had a group of disciples with him that went with him there so that they could say goodbye to him. And at the western border, a gatekeeper stopped him and asked him to share his wisdom before he left. The gatekeeper recognized Lao Tzu as an enlightened being. And seeing that this sage was about to leave the world of men behind, the gatekeeper pleaded with him to leave behind some record of his wisdom before disappearing forever. So moved by his request, Lao Tzu sat down and asked for a brush and parchment paper, and he then wrote down some 5,000 Chinese characters divided into 81 chapters, what we now know as the Tao Te Ching. Marvelous story. And at the same time, another great sage was also shaping China, Confucius. So Confucius was all about rules and structure and morality, and he was helping reform China and preaching how people should act and think, very important during a time of war. Lao Tzu wasn't interested in any of that. And there's a famous legend where Confucius visited Lao Tzu, and after Confucius returned, he reportedly said, "Birds have wings so they can fly. Fish have fins so they can swim. But Lao Tzu, he's a dragon. soaring beyond my understanding. Now, in ancient China, dragons were known as divine beings and symbolized wisdom, power, and the ability to move beyond the worlds of water, of earth, and the sky. So Lao Tzu, he wasn't about control. He was about flowing with life and understanding nature and following the natural way, the way and virtues of nature. And so grateful that this sage, whose wisdom was untamed and limitless, gifted us with this great wisdom. So when we first came across the Tao Te Ching, it completely changed our lives. And I believe that there are wisdoms and books or masters that come into your lives at different times of your life for a reason. And through living in the ways of Tao, and we began to practice a verse every day. And naturally, a form of moving meditation came into our lives called Qigong. How many of you have heard of Qigong before? Can throw up a shaka. Awesome. Okay. So Qigong is a moving meditation with elements of nature meant to recharge your mind, body, and soul. And the movements help us embrace joy, inner peace, and wellness with every single move. Qigong's literal translation means the cultivation of life energy. Qi is life energy, just like mana, and Gong is cultivation. And its ultimate goal is to help one become one with nature. And its other goal is wellness and vitality. It's a practice that's done so much for us in terms of practicing balance and peace every day that becomes a lifelong habit. And it's also something that really called to us to serve as a vessel, which is why we are really deeply grateful to have the opportunity to teach it.
So before we shared few of the verses from Tao Te Ching, we have to share this incredible experience that led us to celebrating the Tao in the most unexpected way. So recently we traveled to Taiwan to celebrate Jade's birthday. What was meant to be a simple, beautiful trip ended up being something which was much more deeper. And in a series of random events, we found ourselves at an ancient temple on top of a mountain where all these amazing clouds were forming. And we were especially excited because we knew it was a Taoist temple, but we didn't know anything about it. And so we started asking around, is there anything about Lao Tzu here? And that's where we found that this was actually one of the sacred temples that honored Lao Tzu and Tao Te Ching in Taiwan. And naturally, our first instinct was, okay, let's start looking for Tao Te Ching. There should be a one book around here that would be showcasing it. And so Jade went around and asked to people, and one of the scholar turned to us and said, Tao Te Ching is right there on the table. We looked around, but it didn't see any book, you know. So we asked again to him politely, and he smiled and pointed us to the table where the Tao Te Ching was carved into the surface itself. If you can see here, right here. You can see all 81 verses were carved in gold on the table here. Then something even crazier happened. The same scholar laughingly mentioned that it was Lao Tzu's birthday on that day. Supposedly, it's being celebrated every year on the 15th day of the second month of Chinese calendar. And we just stood there, stunned. Like, of all the days, of all the places, we happened to be there at that exact moment, celebrating with the community on Lao Tzu's birthday. It was felt like it was all meant for us to experience it in an amazing way. And that's why we knew we had to share the story with you all. And it was more than just finding Tao Te Ching. It was more about celebrating the Tao. And funnily, it was also the birthday of Still and Moving Center during that week. So let's start with the first most powerful verse in Tao Te Ching. It's about surrender, paradox, and transformation. So let's break it down into simple way. The first part of it is, it speaks about if you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. And what it means is we often chase perfection, wanting to be complete, flawless. But the true wholeness can come only when we accept our imperfections. Life isn't about making something rigid or something fixed. It's about embracing change, learning, and growing. And from the inside of Qigong, we don't force stillness or chase perfect balance. It's about flowing between the movement and stillness. It is the space between the tension and release. And it's basically the dance between the both that we feel whole. The second part to that is, if you want to become full, let yourself be empty. This reminds me of the analogy of a cup where, if your cup is already full, nothing new can enter in your life. And here, emptiness isn't about a loss. It's about a space for something new. Amazing quote from Brahmana Maharshi that comes here is, to find what we truly are, we must let go of what we are not. And in the philosophy of Qigong, when practicing breath work, the inhale feels effortless only when we fully exhale out. And by letting go, we create space for fresh energies. Life works the same way. And the third part of it is, when you let go of what you are, you become what you might be. This is one of the amazing deep truth. And we often find ourselves clinging to one of our identities or being afraid to change. But growth requires surrender. The seed must break open to become a tree. And when I started my journey of Qigong, I wanted to get everything right. But over time, I realized letting go of the tension, the expectation, the self-judgment, those are the things which really unblocks the energy. And that's one of the point for you all to think about is, what are you holding on to that's keeping you from growing? If you can let it go, you might just become something greater than what you have imagined.
I wanted to share another amazing verse from the Tao Te Ching. And it goes, do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. Lao Tzu starts by asking, do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. At first, this sounds very discouraging, but it's not saying to do nothing. It's reminding us that the world is not broken. It's not something that has to be fixed. Like nature, it has its own rhythm. And when we try to force something, we create imbalance. In Qigong, when I first started, I really tried to control my breath and my movements. I wanted to get all the movements right. But the more I forced it, the more tense I felt. And I realized that the real energy flows when I let go. And when we stop grasping for things, the things will fall into its natural place. And Lao Tzu goes on to say, if you tamper with the world, you're going to ruin it. You can't treat the world like an object. If you do that, you'll lose it. And Wayne Dyer, another great philosopher, said, you cannot always control what goes on the outside, but you can always control what goes on the inside. I think that's so true. We often try to control life. We try to fix things, force success, and we kind of feel uncomfortable or we try to avoid that discomfort. But control is an illusion. And the more we cling, the more life resists. So Lao Tzu isn't saying to do nothing. He's saying to move with life, not against it, to let signs arise. So instead of fixing, align with the natural rhythm, and naturally you will come into what's unfolding. So next time you feel the urge to control, and pause, breathe, maybe read the Tao or another guiding text in your life, and just let life flow like a river and look for signs. And that's the essence of the wisdom of the Tao.
The next verse is about speaking on interdependence of opposites, how everything in life is defined and shaped by its opposite. It's a powerful reminder of how balance and harmony will arise or arises from the contrast of life. So the first portion of it speaks about when people see something as beautiful, the other things automatically becomes ugly. We often define beauty by comparing it with something we see it as ugly, but beauty isn't fixed. It's something which is relative. And what you see beautiful may not be beautiful to someone else. And one amazing quote from Ramana Maharshi that comes is, the world is a reflection of your mind. The world is as you see it. And from the world of Qigong, every movement has an opposing force, expanding and contracting, pushing and pulling. And there's no right way to move. It's a balance of opposites that creates the harmony. The second part to that verse, it speaks about when people see something as good. I think it's part of, we like to categorize, things as either good or bad, but they are actually two sides of the same coin. And without one, we wouldn't know the other. It's because goodness can only exist because what we perceive as something as bad. And when from the philosophy of the Qigong, when we experience both ease and tension in the body, it is that moment when the flow of energy comes from moving between these opposites. Without the tension, there will be no release. So we have to embrace both sides of the energy in a wholesome way. The third part speaks about being and non-being create each other, difficult and easy support each other, long and short define each other, high and low depend on each other, before and after follow each other. And this speaks to the deep truth that the opposites are interconnected. Without non-being, there will be no being. Without something as difficult, there will be no place for no being easy. And life is a dance between this contrast, that they depend on each other to exist in some ways. And one amazing reflection that I would want to leave you from this verse is, what contrasts in your life are you resisting? What is it? What if you embraced both sides of the energy and finding a balance in them? Maybe it's through accepting both the light and the dark, the true harmony will emerge out of it.
I'd like to share with you another verse that's about surrendering and transformation. So in this verse, it says, if you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. So this doesn't mean physical death. It means allowing the old version of yourself to fade so that something new can emerge. A lot of times we try to resist changing the or this is how it always was. This is how it's supposed to be because it's how it always was. And that's because we've become attached to that old way of being or who we think we are. But real growth happens when we surrender. We are changing at every single moment. And a great sage, Osho, said, "You are not really alive if you are not ready to die. It is only when you are ready to die that you are ready to live." And another part of this verse says, if you want to be given everything, give everything up. And this is the paradox of life. The more we cling, the more we suffer. But when we release attachments and fears, we really open ourselves up to receiving freely. In Qigong, energy flows best when there's no resistance at all. When you clear your mind, when you clear the glass and you let the light shine through. So when we stop grasping and we let our breaths deepen, our movements can become more effortless and oneness with nature. And something to think about is if there's anything in your life that maybe you're afraid of letting go, but what if the surrendering wasn't about losing something, but it's making space for something greater in your life to emerge, to be gifted? And just like the trees, before in winter, the trees have to let go of old leaves and let all the dead leaves fall so that new growth can emerge. That's one of the principles of Tao. We're going to share one more verse here.
Last but not the least, this word speaks to the power of small beginnings and the importance of each step along the journey. It reminds us that every great achievement starts with a small, single, insignificant action. It speaks, the giant pine tree grows from a tiny sprout. And we often look at great things and think that it came from a big immediate action. But all growth, whether in nature or in life, it begins from a small seed. Even massive successes started with a tiny step. Sometimes the smallest beginning holds the greatest potential. And I have to share this from the Qigong inside is when I started my journey Qigong for the first time, I could barely focus for a few minutes. Now we do Qigong every single day. Over time, that became a daily habit and became a part of something bigger transformation. And those every small step in the direction, it was like every small step in life, it accumulated something powerful. And that is the continuation of the verse, which speaks, the journey of 1,000 miles starts from beneath your feet. It's easy to get overwhelmed by how far we have to go, but the journey is always made of small steps. And it's in this small steps that adds up over time. Buddha said, a single moment can change your life. And in Qigong, every single movement, every single posture, breath, it sets the foundation for the life energy to flow through the body. And life is also made through the small, seemingly intentional moments, where each one moment brings us closer to balance, peace, and understanding. So one reflection that I would love for you to think about is when in your life you have been wanting a big breakthrough, without realizing the small steps are where the magic begins. Remember, all the tallest trees grow from the tiniest little seeds. So this is the last slide before we move to the reflections and discussions. So people often ask us, why do you teach Qigong? The truth is, Qigong chose us. It didn't just come into our life. It felt like it embraced us like an unstoppable force that was pulling us into something greater. And Jade and I have been practicing Qigong every single day, learning from masters around the world. We practice in nature across Hawaiian Islands. And there was one day, something profound happened, and we were filming Qigong, and we felt a profound oneness with the nature. And I thought it's a great space for us to open up and share this beautiful story. And it is not something that, you know what, I'll, I'll share just the sneak peek and I want you to see through the video and then I'll share my version of the view. It was the moment where the nature collaborated into this amazing dance of oneness. So I'll open the video for 2 minutes and then I'll share something interesting out of it. Step forward with your right foot, bending your knee slightly. Your right hand sweeps down as if brushing your knee, while your left hand pushes forward, extending your arm fully. Then step back and switch sides, repeating the motion with fluidity. This movement is about moving forward with purpose. As you brush your knee and push, think of clearing a path for yourself, sweeping away doubt, and pushing forward with confidence. It's a gentle reminder to stay focused on your path, trusting in your journey. Centering is about returning to your core, to the essence of who you are. In this moment, let go of distractions and connect with your inner self. Feel the peace that comes from within, the calm that exists regardless of external circumstances. All right, so every time I watch this video, I become speechless, and so we shooted this video for about like 15-20 minutes in the nature and or 1 hour. And when we started, it was pretty cloudy, and it was a long journey, and we went through what we had the intention, and through the movement, the sun just peeked out through the clouds. And when I was doing the centering exercise and the movement, the rain just started pouring behind me, just like as you can see in the background. And as I was doing the brushing the knee and allowing the energy to flow through, this wonderful rainbow just comes out from the Kolau mountains behind us. And it is not something to be named, defined, or grasped. This moment was just simply was. And if I had to find a way to put words or express even this moment, I knew there was something interesting happening just by feeling the energy of the sun coming through the moment and how the energy was flowing within through that movement. If you saw my flow, I wasn't flowing as easily as it was, but I was flowing with all my energy, completely in the moment. And in that moment, I just let go of myself. It was like the I had just dissolved. And there was no self in terms of no mind, no body. It was just movement, energy, and connection. And that is where the magic happens, where the sun, the rain, the clouds, the air all comes together and forms this wonderful rainbow as a part of manifestation of energy. And you can't control it. You can't create it. All you can do is you can just flow with that and hope this magic happens around you. And that's the Qigong that we give to all our students. And there's a saying that consciousness is like water. When it's filled with too much, the water becomes cloudy and no light can shine through. But when you practice your own versions of ways of clearing the water, one day will come that the light will become, or the water will become so clear that the light will radiate through it effortlessly. And over time, the style of yoga and Qigong that we came up with is to help purify your mind, body, and soul. And here's the funny paradox, okay? When this was one of the moments where we found our center, and that is where the center found us. Which center? Still and moving center. And here's our wonderful, beautiful community who have joined us along the journey. And our vision is to grow a community rooted in peace, where people can connect with each other, with nature, through Qigong and other forms of movements. And we invite you to this journey as well of elevating your energy, finding harmony within and around us. And I'm sure all of you may find yourself in the photo one way or the other. If not, we'll definitely make new slides for you. And then last but not the least,
Mahalo Nui Loa for taking time to learn about Taoist philosophy and Qigong with us. We sincerely hope that you'll pluck a gem of wisdom from today's presentation to elevate your energy and those around you. We are going to share a free 15-minute YouTube video with that Qigong routine that you just saw in case you want to practice Qigong. And our class is at the Student Moving Center is on Tuesdays at 4:30 in person and online. And we welcome you to join if you feel so compelled. And now we're going to start our reflection and discussion.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate so much thought and love that you put into this presentation that you provided us with. And we would like to open it up for everybody to share a bit of their wisdom in terms of elevating energy. We've gotten some wonderful suggestions from Deshen and Jade, and I imagine that those inspirations that they've had probably sparked off in you times or ways in which you have found to elevate your energies. This is really an opportunity for each of us to tap into our own wisdom, inspired by one another. Mary Bird, can I call on you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deshin and Jade. The thing that really reinforced my Catholic faith is surrender, because we can't control anything but our own actions, and that's such a parallel with my belief in let go and let God. So surrender is so smart, because I have my mom, she worried about everything, and it made her sick, it made her nerves, her stomach and stuff. And I'm going, why do you have to worry about things you can't control? But of course, I can't control how my mom felt. I can only control myself, and to be kind to people, because we don't know what they've gone through. We don't know how easy or difficult their life has been. So just surrender and be kind. Amen.
Thank you. Could I ask you to stop sharing your screen and we'll be able to see everybody a little bit better? Thank you. Carolyn. Carolyn's joining us from Santa Barbara, California. I see you working on unmute there. Lower left corner.
There we go. Okay. I have a bit of a routine developed. One, if you go through a lot of kind of chaotic days, like I lost all phone contact for 4 days, but they finally climbed up the pole and found the trouble and all the rest. But if you're kind of feeling rushed or jumbled or whatever, go sit down, quietude, just, just quietude. And then when you feel you've got that, music, a kind of music that that both is compatible with your quietude, but yet is going to bring well, both joy and energy. And then what you want is to read something that is really kind of familiar to you, not in a big, a long way necessarily, but something that brings out, you might say, um, the best in you or the spiritual in you. And then after you go through that, you'll begin to think of people or maybe just a person that you think is wise, that there are people out there that are wise and working for the best for humanity. So those all maybe it sounds a bit complicated, but it is. You develop a kind of routine that way. And then when you feel it's the right time to get up, go take a walk. Just go and exercise the body, and the energy will come. And then you can always complete this with a cup of coffee.
I second that.
Shirley, did you have your own to share?
Yeah, I love this topic. Thank you so much, Dishin and Jay, for sharing. I feel very identified with elevating our energy because I'm always looking for ways to do that. And I find that it's so much easier than it sounds, right? I think anything that brings us passion in some way is elevating us in that and like higher energetic feel. For me, it's like surfing and movement and music and breath. It just made me feel so alive. And yeah, like Carolyn said, a cup of coffee too. But I think elevating our energy goes very well with like our passion, just things that we really love and we sink in. And I love how it can be many different things. I love the perspective of the Tao Te Ching, the Tao and the Qigong, but there's so many ways to activate that, right? Creating healthy routines and yeah, just dancing and living on nature. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, I always find that I can elevate my energy by releasing things that I'm kind of holding on to and keep mulling over in my mind. And with that, I can actually feel how my energy drains. But then when I like to journal, so I will journal, what I feel is kind of keeping me stagnant or held back. And then that helps me to release it. And I always feel this lightness and just an increase of energy after I've gone through that process of just writing it out, releasing it, saying a prayer. And it's almost like new life comes into me when I'm able to release things.
It's so interesting. It sounds very much akin to what Dishen and Jade are talking about when we do something that uh, releases the blockage. This flow of energy in and of itself brings an upwelling, it seems like, of additional energy. And they're so tuned into nature, and most of you are mentioning nature. And so it sounds like as your own energy is flowing, it's able to then somehow connect with the greater flow of nature itself, the greater flow of the universe. And so we're buoyed up on that universal energy, perhaps. It's no longer so much us struggling to keep afloat. We're able to be buoyed up by being in the flow of it all. And that was a really lovely helping me see that. Thank you, Anna. Cliff.
Yeah, I was thinking along that idea of releasing things. It almost seems like, from what Deshaun and Jade are saying, is it's kind of counterintuitive. If we go about this project of elevating energy directly, we're not going to elevate energy. It's more, I think, what Jade was saying at the beginning, that we're like vessels. And I think somewhere in the Tao Tzu says that it's the empty space in a cup or in a bowl or in a doorway or a window that's really the valuable thing. And this quote that you shared with us coming in, that in the email, was, "The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus it is like the Tao, indwelling live close to the ground, in thinking keep to the simple." I'm just wondering if maybe it's to elevate energy, if we're really caught into our sense of identity and ego, we're not going to do a very good job of it. But if we trust in nature, we have this faith or this surrender that Mary's talking about, then we become open, and then the energy comes in. So it's more like you're saying, Renee, we got to get out of our own way and have this faith that the energy will come without making too much direct effort at elevating it in terms of our personal sense of self. Something like that. I don't know.
I think one part of that scene of the water flowing, right? The natural flow of the water is flowing downstream, and it's only when because of how you said, sometimes it's our ego, it prevents for the water to flow in some ways, and it can reach to the depth of the places where the egos will never can imagine or can never think about sometimes, and you just hit the nail in some ways. So thanks for sharing that, Cliff.
Great thought. And we can all think of places in our lives. The water just flows so effortlessly, from being a cloud to being in the mountain, down a stream, all the way down, and then flowing into the low places, flowing into the water. It flows effortlessly. And all of us can think of places in our lives where maybe the stream isn't flowing so effortlessly. Maybe there's a big rock blocking the way. And so where can we just kind of remove some of those rocks or pebbles, and then the water will naturally flow that way.
So curious whether Mariange on her pilgrimage to India is making any discoveries along this way, but I'm not sure if she's got enough signal to join us.
Yes, it's an interesting discussion and beautiful presentation. What comes to mind are those blockages, but in this moist morning where everything is fluid, there's water droplets in every particulate of my vision. Everything is wet and wild. It's that reminder that the energy is containing the nourishment in every single micromolecular moment in this. And so the idea of just being in the space in that neutral action, then you're part of the whole flow from what's rising up, what's going down, what's, you know, circulating to the entities of the water. So I think just immersion into nature is the consequence of just being neutral and being letting go. So the other thing I loved was said about the routines, about just, you know, setting up something where you're not defining and thinking and overworking every day. If you're basically in your process, what you've dedicated to, that's what's come up during this week is don't hesitate to go about your life and be part of, you know, the ritual, whether it's coffee, but journaling, prayer, movement, warning, or something like that, that all builds that ability to be in neutrality. If you just sit and wait for energy to come, you may not recognize it, but to be in the flow, you are part of it.
Great insight. Thank you, Marianne. David, our great flow guy. David's very often speaking flow state.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking when Jade was talking about the water and the rocks, and I was thinking about how if you watch a little stick flow down a river, it just goes around the rocks, right? And our tendency is to resist the river, and then we get inserted into the rock. But if we you know, realize that the universe is conspiring on our behalf and we simply let go, we can find our way peacefully down the river with minimal effort and maximum progression, you might say. And I was noticing in Deshawn's movements that it was all about this forward movement kind of thing. And at the very end, he was still in the same spot. It was this lovely, did I just disappear? Yeah. Am I still here?
You're here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So reason so many wonderful reminders of really just letting go. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Margaret, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
On a very, very mundane level, on elevating energy, what comes to mind is that everything starts with first step, with one step. And so if I'm feeling, I really don't want to go out and go for that walk, or, you know, blah, blah, whatever. There's part of me that wants to, but then there's the other part that's just in a funk that doesn't want to. I have enough energy to at least get dressed and take the first step. And once out the door, then that sort of releases a whole lot of energy. And things go on. So I find a lot of inspiration just to take the first step, or write the first note, or do something. And then that sort of gets things going. And that's just from physical point of getting the energy moving.
Isn't it about momentum? Like
Yeah.
once you start going in a direction, you can just keep going.
Yes. Which becomes a flow, which then makes it easier, which lets letting go of all the things, all the rocks that were in the way that you had in your mind that you didn't want to get out the door. So, but once you get out the door, that chips away at one little rock, and then you just keep going, and the momentum comes and it builds, and pretty soon there's the sun, and there's a little what that thing is. plover. and yeah, it escalates.
Beautiful.
I just
Sure.
want to say thank you to Margaret because you kind of like made me think how energy could be a choice, not a resource, right? We often treat energy like something that's finite or we can spend or something to conserve, but I think this idea of energy could be deeply connected to like meaning and alignment and purpose. And a life where actions and thoughts are in harmony. Like energy could be a choice, not just a resource.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nicole or Carol Ann?
I'm not sure why my video won't turn on. It's post disabled me. So you guys can't see me, but oh, there we go. Oh, do it again. I accidentally hit later. There we go. Hi, guys. So I was really intrigued. Wow, let the light shine through.
Let's see. We can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was really intrigued by the idea of clear the glass to let the light shine through, because I'm working so deeply on this concept with my children that I teach about headspace as a room. And I like this idea of putting a window in the room. So just mahalo for getting a lot of inspiration for me in my teaching about just energy flow with children, because they're a lot of energy.
That is a fascinating idea. It could be a matter of putting a window into the room that actually elevates the energy. And maybe there's already a window there and all we have to do is clear the glass to allow that light that was already ready to shine through.
So Renee, what's your method?
Well, I was going to call on Nicole.
Aloha. I don't have that much to add in this moment. I've just really been appreciating the wisdom from different people here. I really appreciate nature, and I also feel like the way that I elevate my energy is noticing the thoughts I'm believing in the moment, because if they are thoughts that aren't necessarily true, then that can really drag down the energy for me. And so recognizing that I'm always a choice in terms of a thought will come in. I don't know that I have control over what thoughts come in, but it's my choice to whether or not I want to actually hold on to that thought and believe it, versus just, all right, well, I don't know where that came from, but I'm just going to let that move on by. So to me, I think that's been something that's been helpful for me.
Oh, that's an excellent suggestion. Thank you so much. Well, actually, what I'd like to do to honor everyone's time, and we are at the top of the hour, is to tell you what's coming up next. And then while I'm doing that, somebody would, I hope, prepare to raise their hand and just give a spontaneous vote of thanks to Deshin and Jade. So next week, figure out exactly. I think we're kind of on our way up to the concept behind Easter. And so next week, we're going to be taking up the topic of true sacrifice. And Carol Ann, who's with us here, is going to be speaking on that topic from the tradition of nursing. And in specific, the person named Clara Barton, who founded the Red Cross. And Carol Ann, as a nurse herself, will be able to speak quite authoritatively on that. The next week is Law and Light, and then on the week of April 19th, Mary Bird, who is with us also, is going to take the topic of the cross from the Christian or Catholic tradition. I guess we haven't quite specified that, probably the Catholic tradition. Don't you love the variety of traditions we can draw from here? I think it's wonderful. So is there somebody who would like to give a vote of thanks to Deshen and Jade? I'm always happy to, but is there somebody who would like to all of a sudden? I always put people on the spot. Cliff, could you unmute if you're going to do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I was thinking there's this article that really inspired me some time ago during an earlier administration of the same one that we have right now. And the article is called "We Are Not the Resistance." And in the article, it talks about we are the river. And this idea, the ideas that Deshan and Jade shared with us today, I mean, I actually feel so much calmer after this this gems in the wisdom tradition. I feel energized and calmer and clearer. And I just really appreciate the way you presented everything and the ideas that you share, because I think they're so helpful to us in our daily lives in a very, very practical way, how we can go about our lives to be more in tune with our deeper center of ourselves, as well as with nature and all the divine energy that flows through nature. And we are part of nature's into us. And so it was a really wonderful teaching, and it was explained in a really accessible way by both of you. And I can tell you both spent a lot of time thinking about how you're going to present it. And then also the conversation that we all had that you launched us into. I think there was a lot of deep ideas shared by everyone here in the group. So it was kind of a group, a deep group chat that I think we all benefited from, and you guys definitely started us on that path. So thank you both so much for doing that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
They will be joining us actually again in just a month, and hopefully in between, but they'll be presenting again for us on the topic of abandoning fear. And in that case, they're going to speak on the tradition of mindful travel. So we have something else to look forward to. I think I've just told you 3 in the next month. Thank you all so much. It was really a pleasure. Sheen and Jade, wow, lovely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Hey guys.
Aloha.
Mahalo. Mahalo.
Hello.
Everyone.
Yeah, aloha. Were Anna and Nicole students of yours?
They were, yeah, they were.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I'm so glad. Well, one of the signs of a good meeting is the conversation. Well, it's not a meeting, it's a conversation, but so the input that comes from everyone else, how everyone is inspired to share, is a really good sign of a well done presentation. And that really is what is behind Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, is really, tickling out everybody's inner wisdom. With the notice that I've made that is that a lot of times what people remember most from something that they've attended, especially if it's a talking event, is what they end up saying themselves. Because what they've said themselves is what they've taken in, processed enough to then speak it out. And so it's almost like them hearing it in their own ears.
Yeah.
Really creates this inner outer resonance. And sometimes I think they hear things, or we hear things coming out of our mouths and have this experience like, oh, I didn't know I knew that. That is so cool. You know, when we give people this opportunity to kind of spontaneously speak, I think there is often this self-discovery just
Yeah.
waiting right there.
Spontaneity is very important as part of being in the flow, I feel. And, once you hear something, you can't unhear it. And if you did catch on something, and if you find ways, you'll automatically see things around also, which might relate to what you have heard. And now you have a stream of thoughts. And when the stream of thoughts flowing into something, it might become something bigger in some ways. And we want to see conscious thoughts. And when you relate something with a good flowing thought, you have already started the flow in the right direction of well-being or anything which you want to grow into, I think.
Okay. Every single person shared today. So, I think it was a sign of that flow. So, wonderful. Thank you
Renée.
guys so much.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Aloha.